We've all been sold on a pretty simple idea, right? That more choice equals more freedom, and more freedom means more happiness. But what if I told you that entire equation is not just wrong, but it's actually biologically backward? Today, we are diving deep into the paradox of choice and the surprising science of how our modern world, with its endless options, might just be engineered to make us miserable.
And this quote, well, it just nails the core of the problem. Our brains are actual hardware, evolved over millions of years for a world of scarcity. And now we've dropped that ancient brain into a world of just insane abundance. It's like trying to run ancient survival software on a brand new supercomputer. And that glitch, that fundamental mismatch, is the source of a very modern and very familiar kind of anxiety.
So to really get this, we're going on a 5-part journey. First up, we'll define the abundance trap. Then we'll look at the biology of what we're calling your overwhelmed brain. After that, we'll map out the vicious cycle of the maximization regret loop. And don't worry, once we get the problem, we're going to pivot to solutions with the art of satisficing and a whole new philosophy, liberty through limits.
Okay, so let's start with a feeling I think we all know way too well. This trap of abundance, where having more choices somehow seems to create more problems.
You know this feeling, right? You've scrolled endlessly through some streaming service, you're faced with literally thousands of movies and shows, and what happens? You just give up. You turn it off and you feel defeated, annoyed. That's not a personal failing. It's a totally predictable neurological reaction called choice paralysis, and it's a key symptom of the abundance trap. This right here really lays out the whole conflict. Our ancient hardware, our brain, was built for scarcity. We had to make simple but super high-stakes choices. Is that a predator or not? The goal was just survival. Today's world, it's all about abundance. Infinite choices, most of them pretty low stakes, and our goal has totally shifted from survival to optimization. This exhausting, endless quest to find the absolute #1 perfect best. Our brains just weren't built for that game. So what is actually happening inside our heads when we feel this way? This brings us to part 2, the biology of being overwhelmed. And I mean it. This isn't just a vague feeling. It is a physical, measurable process. And that brings us to this key concept, the metabolic tax. See, every single decision you make, no matter how small, burns real, physical energy in the form of glucose. I want you to think of your brain's decision-making power as a limited fuel tank. So, comparing 50 different kinds of olive oil at the supermarket is like revving your engine in bumper-to-bumper traffic. You're burning a ton of fuel without actually getting anywhere.
Now, inside your brain, there are 2 key players in this drama. You've got your prefrontal cortex, the PFC. That's the logical analyst, trying to compare features, prices, all the rational stuff. But when it's faced with too many options, it just redlines. It stalls out. At the same time, your orbital frontal cortex, the OFC, is acting like the evaluator. It's trying to predict which choice will bring you the most joy. But when it's overwhelmed, it gets haunted by the what-ifs, all the options you didn't pick.
Okay, so let's make this super simple. Imagine you have 2 choices, a blue car or a red car. Your brain makes one single comparison. The metabolic tax is low. The decision is clean. This is the kind of choice our brains evolved to handle beautifully. But now, what if you have 20 choices? It's not 19 comparisons. The mental load, the cognitive load, it grows exponentially. To properly compare 20 options, you'd have to make 190 unique comparisons. 190. Faced with that, your prefrontal cortex basically just short circuits. That is the biological reality of analysis paralysis. And here's the crazy part. Even after you finally make a choice, the problem isn't over. Now you're stuck in what's called the opportunity cost trap. Your brain doesn't celebrate the great car you chose. Oh no. Instead, it obsesses over the imagined perfect versions of the 19 cars you left behind. It just haunts you with what-ifs. And this leads us directly into our 3rd section, the maximization regret loop. This is a totally predictable, almost mechanical cycle of self-doubt that turns the search for the best into a guarantee of feeling the absolute worst. So let's walk through the 5 stages, because you'll probably recognize this. It starts with the option surge. You're just slammed with a ton of choices. This leads to comparison exhaustion, as your brain burns out trying to analyze them all. Then you make a choice, but you experience what's called a commitment veto, where your brain never fully buys in. Next up is satisfaction decay, where one tiny flaw in your choice suddenly feels like a giant deal breaker. And finally, you get the regret hit, that awful, sinking feeling that you definitely made a mistake. So why is this loop so powerful? Well, it's because of a deep-seated survival instinct called loss aversion. Here's the deal. Neurologically, the pain of losing something feels about twice as strong as the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. So when you're looking at 20 options, your brain doesn't see it as one potential gain. It sees it as one gain and 19 potential losses. And that hurts.
Okay, that all sounds pretty bleak, I know. But the good news is, you are not powerless here. You can absolutely take back control. And that brings us to our fourth section and the solution. The art of satisficing. This is your toolkit for breaking that cycle. The core strategy here is a concept called satisficing. It's kind of a mashup of the words satisfy and suffice. Instead of being a maximizer who is endlessly, exhaustively searching for the best, you become a satisficer. And your goal is no longer perfection. It's simply finding the first option that is good enough and meets your needs.
So how do you actually do this? Tool number 1. Set your must-haves. And here's the key. You do this before you even start looking at options. Write down your 3 non-negotiables. The very first option that checks all 3 of those boxes wins. That's it. Decision made. Close the browser. Walk away. What you're doing is creating voluntary constraints to protect your brain's precious energy.
Tool number 2 is the rule of 3. When you're faced with a giant, overwhelming list of options, don't even try to analyze them all. Your first job is to just immediately filter that list down to your top 3 contenders. Then your only job is to choose from that small, manageable set. It's so much less taxing on your brain. All right, our third tool is a bit counterintuitive, so stick with me here. Make your decisions irreversible. Once you've chosen, commit. Toss the receipt, delete the return label, delete the dating app. Research consistently shows that we are psychologically much happier with decisions that we cannot change. Why? Because it forces our brain to stop looking for what's wrong and start focusing on what's right about our choice. And finally, when that little voice of regret does start to creep in, and it will, you need a mantra. You need to be able to label that feeling. Say to yourself out loud if you have to, that's just an opportunity cost ghost. It isn't real. This simple act helps your logical brain take back control from that ancient panicking part that's creating all the anxiety. This all brings us to our final section, where we're going to zoom out from these practical tools to a bigger philosophy and really redefine what it even means to be free. I want you to really let this one sink in for a second. The modern myth is that total freedom means having infinite choice. But what the science shows is that kind of boundless, unlimited freedom doesn't actually liberate us. It paralyzes us. It's a cage built from the bars of analysis paralysis and constant regret. And this offers a new definition of empowerment. Real freedom, true agency, isn't about having every possible option at your fingertips. It's about having the wisdom and the power to choose your own constraints. It's about deciding for yourself that 3 choices are enough. That is where you find real control and real happiness. So the biggest takeaway from all of this is pretty simple. The goal of making a decision isn't to find the one perfect, flawless option out there. The goal is to find one that's good enough so you can commit to it and then free up your mental energy for the things that actually matter in life. Because ultimately, the best choice isn't the one with the most features or the best price. The best choice is the one you stop thinking about.